Hey, Steve, I'm curious. How was your local reaction to the George Floyd verdicts?
How do you mean now my local reaction? As in,
Like,
like, how
like
did?
just from people where you are. How did they react? Like, what was there the same type of um, jubilation as there appeared to be kind of almost everywhere else?
I mean, sort of, yeah. So, we were talking about it the week of in work and stuff like that, and then obviously, like when the conviction was announced, like yeah, it was sort of just like a massive just just like a sigh, just like a weight had gone. But I mean, I was kind of explaining it to a few people in work because if there's like I'm kind of known in work as that guy of there's like if there's anything to do with American politics that they like don't really know about that they'll just ask me about because I'm just kind of freakishly involved in it for someone who's living in Ireland. It just doesn't affect me at all. But
Sure.
like I was kind of saying that since 2005, there has only been 12 police officers who have been convicted on some form of police brutality or like that, or like something akin to that. That have
I
been
remember.
like since 2005. Like, if you give me 5 minutes, I can Google 12 people who are guilty of that just this year. So I was trying to explain to like
Yeah.
obviously we can all see he was 100% guilty. Like, he was undeniably guilty,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that they were actually going to convict him. So it was, yeah, it was literally just just a deep sigh of just relief
Yeah,
when.
that's really interesting. Um, I remember hearing a similar statistic, and I can't remember the exact number now, but it was like 12 that had been convicted, and an incredibly small number that had even been charged in the
Yeah.
first place.
Hmm.
And I remember watching. I was fortunate enough to be off the day that the verdicts came down, and so I watched. Sat there kind of like on the couch. My wife and I both did, just sitting there biting our nails, waiting. And just before the verdicts came in, they were talking. I was watching CNN, and Van Jones was one of the commentators,
Mm.
and I think it was Anderson Cooper. One of them just said, "How you feeling right now?" And he said, "Afraid to hope." And
Yeah.
and that really that
Yeah.
struck me. That struck me. Um, he said he went on to say, it's like all these people, all of these black people in America, and in fact all around the world, they woke up this morning too scared to hope. Even though, like you said, I mean, fucking open and shut. The trial should have lasted as long, as the video did,
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
and then it should have just been over and done with. And there are, all kinds of people who were. It's I remember I watched large portions just because of my work schedule. I was able to watch large portions of the trial, and I didn't feel bad for Chauvin, like not for a nanosecond, but
Hmm.
there were times when I did feel bad for his lawyers because I mean it's being on the Titanic and being handed a little sand pail,
Yeah.
right? Saying, do your best. Um, what they had to try to argue, and it was hard
Yeah.
because I tried not to get mad at them for some of the, and again, not being a legal mind, but some of the ridiculous arguments they were putting forward, but they had nothing else. They had
Yeah.
nothing. It's like,
Yeah.
this is all we got. We got to do something. So let's say it was a heart attack, or let's say it was the fentanyl in his system, or let's say it's something. Even though every doctor that came, except for the one, Dr. Nick, that the defense managed to drag out from retirement to say, oh no, it was definitely a heart attack. Everybody was just like, nope, nope. The pulmonologist, all these other people are like, they laid it all out. This is what it was. Um, One of the things for me that was kind of like a slap in the face for the defense team was when one of the doctors was asked why he didn't put anything about George Floyd's heart into the coroner's report, like into the autopsy report. And he said on the stand, and said, he said, because there was nothing noteworthy about his heart. There was nothing abnormal about it.
Hmm.
So it wasn't something we needed to talk about. And I was just like, damn. And because that was one of the
My
things.
screen's just going to go black here for a second, guys. I'm going to try and set up my laptop.
Anyway, and so because that was one of the things that the defense was really counting on, like, oh, it had to be his heart, right? It had to be his heart or something else in his system, right? Because it obviously wasn't this guy kneeling on him for 9 minutes. Like, that wasn't it.
No, couldn't have been. Couldn't have been.
So it was.
They had even tried to say that it was the fucking fumes from the exhaust of the car. Like it could be it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. It could have been a guy that was over the street that fucking picked his nose and then like looked up at the sun and got blinded for a second. It was him rather than just anything other than what it actually fucking was.
Did you hear the rebuttal about why it couldn't have been the exhaust fumes?
I didn't actually hear it. I was kind of the same as yourself. So I was in a few positions in work where I could listen to the trial, but like even though I had it in my ears with the like earbuds, the same ones that I'm wearing like right now, actually, like I was only kind of like 50% listening and 50% concentrating on what I was doing. So,
in Minnesota, those police vehicles are hybrids. So the internal combustion combustion engines would shut off. So he would never have had constant exposure to the carbon monoxide.
Shit, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. That was one of the rebuttals by the prosecution to, like, when the defense said, "Oh, it could have been this." The prosecution rebutted it with the expert testimony saying these vehicles are actually hybrid vehicles, and so the internal combustion engine shuts off periodically.
So it literally couldn't have been that.
It couldn't have been that. It couldn't have been that, unless Chauvin would have been bagging the CO2 and forcing that down George Floyd's airway. So it was. I was of course happy. I'm very, very nervous about the sentencing. But
yeah.
But the judge certainly seemed to be above board, to the best of my knowledge. So I'm nervous. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic that they won't, that the judge won't let something like this go. And they've said that there's got to be all of the reports about mitigating circumstances and aggravating factors and all that other stuff. So there's lots of things that have to go into that. And my hope is that he'll compile all those things, look at it, and say, yeah, okay, what's the most we can hit him with? Yeah, that. But who knows? Oh, there he is. He's back.
Yeah,
so,
there we go.
I watched the conviction or the jury's result. It was on Vosh's stream. He was live streaming it, and it was. I have the little bit there. Like, this is like collectively how he reacted to it, but like how I genuinely think so many people reacted to it. He just did this.
Yes. Members of the jury, I find that the verdicts as read reflect the will of the jury and will be.
Is that playing? Can you guys hear that?
It is. Yeah, it's playing.
Yep. It's just slow.
It looks like it froze.
Can you guys hear it though?
It looks like it froze. You have to.
No, it didn't freeze.
Again.
I thought.
We can hear it. Yeah.
Hang on, give me a second there because. Okay.
They were just about to say,
I actually couldn't hear
it. Of the jury.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Shoot, give me a sec. Oh, I'm so bad at technology. Give me two. This is such a fucking like. I don't like. What's the word I'm trying to? What's the phrase I'm trying to think of?
Clusterfuck?
I don't know. Anyway, this.
Oh, you went robotic there for a second.
Oh,
there you are. Oh, frozen. It's frozen breakdancing.
That was a problem with the islands.
Oh shit! Am I still frozen?
No, you're
better now.
You're better now.
Am I good now? Oh yeah, I have a little.
Why
do I have a little Wi-Fi? Why do I have a Wi-Fi thing? I'm connected to the fucking Ethernet. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, just like Vosh is just yes there. I genuinely think that that's just how like the vast majority of people kind of like felt in that moment where it was like. But what so many people were saying was that he didn't have like in that moment he didn't have you know he didn't have regret, he didn't have remorse, he didn't have like he wasn't upset, he was confused because
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
it's become this staple of cops can just do whatever the fuck they want, they can just kill people willy-nilly and they will get away with it. So it was just such a break from normalcy that like he even after the entire trial where basically fucking everybody was on the exact same page apart from that one Dr. Nick, who I can't say quickly and not think of the Simpsons character.
Exactly.
But like just the fact that everybody was on the same page and yet he still thought that he was gonna walk. Like it's just yeah.
Well, history's a bitch, right?
Mm.
And so I mean he was sadly justified in his thinking, and so that shock is genuine because of, well, like you said before, right? Since 2005, only 12 convictions, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can do a Google search and can see how many police-related shootings there are. And all that kind of stuff. My wife and I spent actually a good amount of time talking about this, and it's just a different mentality here. I don't envy any law enforcement officer's job. It's not an easy job. In the US, I especially don't envy them because everybody's got a fucking gun. And so it is. I'm not trying to justify police shootings in any way, shape, or form because you sign up for that job. You say you're going to do that job. So if you can't do it, you shouldn't do the job. But I certainly understand why tensions are so high. You go into a situation and you have no idea how many, like, so you're one officer, two officers, who knows, or maybe as many as a handful. And you go into a situation and you have no idea outside of the guns you have, how many guns are there. And it's got to key everybody up. So I don't envy their position, but it's certainly not an excuse, and it doesn't even apply to George Floyd because he didn't have a weapon on him. So, but it's a very weird thing. I don't envy their position, but if you don't want to do that, life's too short. If you don't like your job, do a different job.
I mean, the police force is woefully undertrained and overworked. They are thrown into a situation where they're usually in over their heads, and things escalate very quickly. But they're the ones that have a gun in their in a holster.
You're right.
In many cases, the only one or one of several. But right now you're in a situation where you have to make these split-second decisions, right? And they're not prepared in many cases for what's going on. They're not trained properly, and also they've got the whole defund the police thing. Not saying take their money away, meaning put it into better equipped people's hands to deal with these things. There's ways of de-escalating situations that police just aren't trained for and aren't the best people to do. They're being called for way the reason why you call the police is that it's far too broad.
Yeah.
You call the police if your cat's stuck in a tree, and you call the police if your father's dementia's gone missing. You call the police if there's a black man at the park. I mean, they need to do it. Police do this to this. That's their range. That's when you call the police. Otherwise, you call somebody else.
Yeah, no.
And we need to have a 911 and a 912 and a 913, and for whatever the case may be, you call the right people.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. There was an interesting thing I saw on. They were interviewing a captain from Camden, Camden County, New Jersey, and their department was receiving accolades because of the number of police involved shootings they didn't have, and the fact that they had employed some different organizations and consulting firms to specifically do enhance de-escalation techniques with their police and focus on community policing instead of just going out there and trying to lock people up for, because they have a dime bag of weed on them and stuff like that. So there are definitely ways to do it, and some place like Camden, New Jersey would be an example of that. One of the differences that I think of is, Dean, you'll remember this, Stephen, you probably wouldn't have heard of it, but 2 years ago, there was a guy named Alex Manassian who was in a white panel van, and he drove down Yonge Street, which is a major street in Toronto, and
along the street in North America.
Yeah, along the street in North America. He went off of the road onto the sidewalk and just started running people over. I think he killed 7 people, injured like 15 or 16 others. And
that was right close to where my friend lives, and his mom was out at the time, like doing shopping, and he was like, "Oh my god, like that's right where my mom is."
He got out of the van and was confronted with police. He reached, and he was at gunpoint. He reached towards his back and pulled out like he had a gun, and he did this several times, trying to get the cop to shoot him, and the cop didn't shoot him. He was taken into custody alive. And so I think part of that is because there was, and I can't get into this cop's head, but I can't help but wonder if he was in the US that he would have had a different outcome, because, hey, there's a high possibility this guy does have a gun. Whereas in Canada, there's just less people walking around with guns. It's really hard to get a gun in Canada. Sure, you can get illegal guns, but there's basically one, it's called an FAC, or a Firearms Acquisition Certificate. And it's a massive application process, and you can easily be turned down because you don't have a constitutional right to a firearm in Canada. You don't have it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's basically fucking impossible here. The weapons laws like that we have here are like kind of just ridiculous. We don't have pepper spray is illegal here.
Oh, really?
Like, pepper spray is illegal here. Fucking nobody has a gun. There are like a couple of like farmers who own a shotgun, and that's it. And they have to I'm pretty sure they have to regularly check in. They have to keep an account. They have to keep like rigorous receipts of all of the ammo that they buy, and if they are subject to a spontaneous check, if they let's say that they have one round short of what they should have based on their receipts, they have to fully explain why they are this round shot. Why did you shoot the gun? You know what I mean? So wow. It's incredibly difficult here. So there's just not that fear of, if you, because there's a justified fear when you're in the States, if you're walking alone at night, if you're anyway kind of afraid or a little bit weary or paranoid or anything else like that, you're kind of looking at and wondering, does that guy over the street, does he have a gun? I have never had that thought. It's never popped into my head because there's just no guns here. So look, I do have some amount of empathy for police, but what they've done, it's just, I have empathy for them, but the state that they've gotten to and what they've done and how much line crossing that they've done in the last couple of decades is, it's just too much.
And it's the fact that it's disproportionately affecting people of color is I mean, you can't get away from that. I mean, the amount of de-escalation that's done when there's a white person on the offending side compared to the amount of de-escalation that's done when it's not, it's night and day. And I don't know, I really don't know how much more time needs to pass when this undercurrent of racism in America goes away. I don't know how much more we need to keep, like, how does it keep on perpetuating and growing? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I used to be incredibly naive. I used to think that hate would die off, that all the that all these racist people would just they would die off, and that people would get smarter. Sounds harsh, but get smarter. And realize, Christopher Hitchens said something interesting in one of his discussions. He said, we need to get over this stupid concept of